1995 was the year that Killer Instinct exploded onto the Super Nintendo system, taking the fighting genre by storm and providing some serious competition for the two main fighting mainstays at the time, which were the Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter II games. Initially proposed to be released for the Nintendo 64, this new console was forever being delayed, and so the decision was made by developers Rare to release a downgraded version for the Super Nintendo. Killer Instinct had done extremely well in the arcades with its unique Fast and Furious gameplay, and was one of the most advanced games out there at the time due to it being made using state-of-the-art silicon graphical workstations, which allowed Rare to render 3D backgrounds, objects and the fighter themselves, which gave off an impressive 2D visual style, which became almost Rare's trademark in the games that they would make. When it came to porting Killer Instinct to the 16-bit Super Nintendo, obviously some enhancements would have to be removed, such as the camera angles, animations and some graphical details to be downplayed. Despite the inevitable changes though, the game proved to be very successful, retaining the style and feel of the arcade and still showcased some impressive gameplay for the SNES. Killer Instinct was different from other games, as rather than just input a sequence of moves as in Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter to perform a few attacks, the action was much faster, with players being able to rush at their opponents, and when a certain combination of button presses and movements were done in conjunction with this, then players were able to perform a succession of moves and impressive combos on their opponents when they were open to attack, meaning that even those who may struggle with fighting games could still be able to pull off a respectable amount of combos and enjoy the game. Killer Instinct takes place in the future and holds a tournament set up by a company called Ultratech, who uses its advanced technology to create experimental creatures and weapons, as well as capturing humans and other supernatural entities, forcing them to fight for their lives, with the winner of the tournament earning their freedom. Everyone who participates or is forced to has their own reasons for wanting to win. Orchid wants to infiltrate Ultratech and expose the company, providing proof of their illegal and cruel experimental procedures. There's the boxer TJ Combo, who wants to enter to regain his reputation of being the best fighter in the world. Saberwolf suffers from lycanthropy and has been promised a cure to turn him back into a human if he wins. There's the undead skeleton warrior Spinal, whom Ultratech brought back from the dead. Cinder, a criminal composed entirely of fire and able to unleash a range of deadly heat attacks. Chief Thunder is looking for his missing brother Eagle, who is kidnapped by Ultratech. There's Fulgor, a prototype robot who was created by Ultratech and placed in the tournament to test his capabilities. Jago, a warrior monk who seeks peace and enlightenment and fights in the tournament for honour more than anything else. There's Glacius, an alien who crash-landed on Earth, whom Ultratech captured and is forcing him to fight. There's Riptor, yet another Ultratech experiment, who is a genetically engineered raptor, whom is comprised of dinosaur and human DNA, making her extremely violent and deadly. Finally, there's the three-headed demon Idol, whom Ultratech have purposely freed from his spiritual prison, allowing him access to Earth's dimension, where he waits to challenge the tournament's finalist. Rather than take place in rounds, Killer Instinct gives each player 2 energy bars right off the bat. Once one has been depleted, then the other one instantly appears, so there's no fading to black, and the fight initially carries on and only ends once you have defeated your opponent or they have defeated you. Typically the gameplay works as in other fighting games, as you defeat opponents and climb further upwards in the contest until you finally get to fight the boss Idol. Now, I am terrible at fighting games in general, despite being such a huge fan of them. Killer Instinct, like Street Fighter II, however, can allow someone as unskilled as myself to be able to pull off a decent amount of combos. Whilst some characters are very easy to use, others do require a bit of trial and error to figure out their particular attacks. I did find that Cinder, Spinal and Saberwolf were great characters for beginners to start off with, and they really helped me get to grips with the gameplay. The animations and movesets again are incredible, and although don't have the power processors of the arcade, they look extremely impressive and fluid, with some amazing attacks which players can vary at any time to suit the situation. I still can't get over how good Killer Instinct looked in 2020. The graphics still wow me, just like the very first time I put it into my Super Nintendo. The mountains and bridge and thunder stage are my favourites, however each stage is entirely unique and takes place on dark sinister rooftops, a huge castle, a boxing gym, Tibet and even in Ultratech itself. Much work has been done to again not only individualise and shape each stage to suit the fighter, but Rare wanted to make sure that they did not repeat themselves. Also, the music that accompanies each stage adds to the fast-paced ambience, offering intense tunes that, like the stages, are extremely varied. There is everything from pumping dance music to tribal beats and even a 2/4 march. Like the gameplay, it pushes the SNES's sound capabilities to the max, and whilst I love the music in Street Fighter 2, there's no doubt that this is some of the best music I've ever heard in a fighting game. So good it was even given its own companion CD, which was packaged with some copies of Killer Instinct, called Killer Cuts. The game's controls have been mapped well to fit the parameters of the SNES. Attacks range from weak to strong with the press of a button, and players will be able to pull off some incredible attacks even if they have never played the game before. I myself couldn't believe some of the moves and combos I was able to pull off. One reason why Killer Instinct's gameplay and control style works so well is that whilst it encourages the player to try and figure out combos, it doesn't force it on the player, so most of the time you can just hit your opponent, back off and then try a combo or a different strategy. The CPU in later fights will block you, and whilst it will beat you most of the time, it's possible to have some amazing back and forth bouts and be the victor. In some fights I was down to just a smidgen of health, and I was able to beat my opponent far more than I thought possible. Plus this game is seriously addictive. Once you get into the game and lose, you will instantly want to get right back into the action and try again, and with unlimited continues there's no excuse. In conclusion, Killer Instinct for the SNES is hands down one of the best fighting games for the system. It takes the formula and turns it on its head, allowing for an adrenaline pumping experience that 25 years later is still worth playing. The gameplay, characters, graphics and music are all well implemented as much as possible into the 16-bit processing power, and you know what, despite not being able to have a few more bells and whistles that the arcade has, it bloody works. If you have played Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter 2 to death and all of their versions and want something different, then Killer Instinct might be up your alley. It will definitely accommodate you with its interesting cast of characters, and it's a game you will always want to go back and play due to its addictive nature. Okay, I just want to say thank you very much for watching my video, and I'll see you next time.
Supreme victory!